Welcome to Business Leaders Coach, where we educate, enable, equip, and empower you to become the best leader that you can be. My name is Toyosi Mbi, founder of Business Leaders Coach. And at Business Leaders Coach, we work with CEOs and their leadership teams, companies that are scaling up and want to accelerate their learning. On this podcast, I bring you practical steps that you can apply in your leadership today. We draw wisdom from some of the best business books, bring on guests and entrepreneurs and authors as well. You can go to businessleaderscoach.com/podcast, subscribe so that we can send each episode and any templates or tools that come with these subsequent episodes. So over the last 4 episodes, we've been going through how to fail forward, and today I want to welcome you to episode 51. This is part 5 in the series, and it's the final part of our topic, how to fail forward. Now, we are going to talk about going through the land of failure to get to success. And let me start off with a story. This story came from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. It's a lesson from an insurance broker, him and his uncle. The insurance broker was Darby, that's his name, R.U. Darby. And he learned this through an experience that he had with his uncle. Now, his uncle was caught up in this gold rush fever back in those days and went mining for gold, starting off with a pick and shovel. Not long after some weeks of hard labor, he was rewarded. This is the uncle. He was rewarded by discovering the shining ore. And so he realized that he needed machinery to bring the ore to the surface. So he covered up the mine and raised funds, got the money together. And this is where he pulls in Darby. And the two of them went to work on the mine. Things initially looked good until the vein of gold ore disappeared. It looked like they had got to the end of the rainbow and the pot of gold wasn't there. Finally, they had to quit and they sold the machinery to a junk man. Now, this was no ordinary junk man. He had a better idea. He actually got an engineer, a mining engineer, to come and see the situation. This mining engineer calculated that they actually weren't far from where the ore was. And from his own calculations, he said that I'm sure that the ore would just be 3 feet from where they stopped. And that's exactly where the junk man found it. Now, the junk man took millions of dollars in the ore from this mine. Meanwhile, Darby and his uncle had to pay back a lot of the money. This was an experience that obviously it was quite tragic at the time. But here's the point. Darby learnt from this experience. He later started a life insurance business, but he became a different man through this experience. He developed a stickability that made him a member of a small group of fewer than 50 men who sold more than $1 million in life insurance annually during his time. And so the point is that even though when we go through failure, it might be a very painful experience, it became the path to his success. And so as we are thinking about failing forward, one of the mindset shifts to have, or the concept around this, is to expect to go through the land of failure to get to success. So we can see even from this story that sometimes we might not see that the failure that we're going through is helping to shape our future, is helping to shape who we are. I mean, with Darby, why did he have this stickability? Because he realized that he was just 3 feet away from gold and they stopped. And that gave him an extra tenacious character moving forward. Now, obviously, it must be painful that he lost out on the gold, but it came up somewhere else. And I think that that's something that we should take away from all of the failures that we go through. And the reason is that at the time, obviously, we can't see this. But I think it leads to us keeping a hopeful perspective, which leads to this second mindset, which is good things can still come out of failures. Good things can still come out of failures. As we can see from this story, although we might be blinded from it at the time, and it might be quite painful, and we've talked about that, good can still come out of it. And that's something to have in order to be able to have the right attitude and stay positive. And so therefore, we need to keep climbing the failing forward success ladder. And the mindset shift statement that I think we need to adopt is, I expect to go through the land of failure to get to success. I expect to go through the land of failure to success. And I'm sure for some of you, just by saying that, it kind of feels odd, because failure is, for some people, is just a negative word. But what we're trying to do with these episodes is to embrace that word and to see it as part of life. Because when you think about all the inventors that have, come up with anything innovative. I mean, the other day I was reading about Dyson, and he had over 5,000 failures before he finally got to the success. And so we will find that they had to go through this, but their perspective was that they have to go through this failure in order to get to success. That's the mindset shift that you can make. So when you're thinking about building your business, building that team, or whatever it is, have that mindset to help you move forward. So we've gone through this series on how to fail forward. I want to thank you for your comments, the feedback, and I hope this is helping you to take the step and the steps forward in the right direction that you want to go. So just to do an overall recap on the last 5 episodes, we've talked about how to fail forward, and we talked about how do we see failure. We talked about the importance of understanding how this can impact our self-image, and we shouldn't take it personally. We shouldn't allow it to define who we are. We talked about how the importance of asking the question, what do I still need to learn? That failure is actually an opportunity to learn. We should have this mindset of this is perhaps a minimum viable product perspective, and also see things from an experiential point of view, that this is an experiment. How about if I am taking this whole process into the lab? Then we've looked at the importance of asking the question, have I done everything I could? Acknowledging the pain that comes with it, but also, and grieving when we need to, but then still taking that ownership of asking, have I done everything I could? Then we also looked at, in the previous episode, about forgiving yourself and others and still moving forward. And today, in this episode, we've talked about this is actually the path towards success, that we must go through this failure in order to get to success. So share this with your team so that you can all have the same perspective towards failing forward. Now, we're going to be having some exciting guests in subsequent episodes and subsequent podcast episodes. So I hope that you really engage with that as well. And this topic, I'm sure, is going to come up. Any comments, please make them. Go to businessleaderscoach.com. If you haven't subscribed, go to businessleaderscoach.com/podcast. For now, this is Toyo Shimbi for Business Leaders Coach. Take care.